What's up, guys? I'm Hector Carrasco, this is Jaden Stokes, and we're from the Northwest City Group, the best city group out there. Represent live in the chat. Listen, right now, wherever you're at, whether you're in your mom's car, your room, your living room, watching on a tablet, if people still use those, we just want to say welcome to City Group Online. And listen, drop in the chat right now what city group you're from, and then also your Instagram handle, your your Twitter, your Facebook, your Google Plus, if people still use that. And let's freaking start City Group. It's gonna be awesome. Check this out.
A few moments later.
3, 2, 1.
But here's what's going to happen. So you guys are going to get in a circle. All right. We'll hand one of you guys the bottle. You'll spin it. All right. Whoever it lands on. So let's say it lands on Keith. Keith has to then run, grab an egg. Everybody else just takes off that way. And then you just whip it as hard as
and have your throne within my heart. I hear you call, and I am available, and I say, yes, Lord, I am available. Oh, yes, I'm available.
Hey guys, I'm super excited to be talking to you this week. My name is Belle, if we haven't met before. I'm Belvedere North City Group Director and a student of CFLC. This month, Pastor Jer is talking to us about crisis fatigue. So with that, I'm just having a message that kind of piggybacks off of what he's talking about. With everything going on, some of you guys might feel a lot of this, the crisis fatigue, and you might feel a little bit of craziness. I know for me, I am coming to the end of my sanity. I speak in TikTok songs now. I have become a baker. I am a professional painter, a poet, a philosopher, and I've contemplated bangs 13 times. I'm not joking. I want to talk about a couple of things that go along with crisis. You can even call them crisis symptoms. For some, it's emotional exhaustion. For some, it's loss of achievement. You become mentally exhausted. Some people isolate themselves, and for some people, they even experience physical exhaustion. These things eat away at so many parts of us. Our sound mind, our judgment, our ability to be courageous, a bunch of things along these lines. And as much as all of these lead us to feel like we have no control, I want to remind you guys today of the authority that comes not only with Jesus, but also with resilience. I want to tell you guys a story about King Hezekiah. It's the 14th year of Hezekiah's reign, and the king of Assyria is going through all of these different towns, and he's capturing them and looting them and attacking them. And he finally gets to Hezekiah's, and he sends his field commander to deliver a message to the king and says this in Isaiah 36. He says, "On what are you basing this confidence of yours? You say you have counsel and might for war, but you speak only empty words. On whom are you depending that you rebel against me?" He begins to taunt King Hezekiah. I feel like all of the symptoms of crisis do that to us. They begin to taunt us. The fear, the worry, the anxiety, the anger, everything of it, every single part of it begins to go into our mind and remind us of it over and over and over. I can't imagine what King Hezekiah was feeling. It would probably felt impossible, like he wasn't going to win. But what he does blows me away. He didn't answer back to the taunting. He didn't agree and just sit there and let it pass him by. Now I want to go deeper and bring up this point. I'm not asking you not to feel. We don't want to be people who sweep things under the rug. King Hezekiah responded to this by ripping his clothes and going to the temple of the Lord. He called for Isaiah, who was a prophet, and this is what Hezekiah says. He says, "This is a black day and we are in crisis." This is in verse 3 in the Message translation. Now, before I keep going, I want to remind you guys that this isn't just applicable to COVID-19. Maybe you're in the middle of finding out that you didn't get accepted into the college you wanted. Your parents are in the middle of divorce. You're dealing with loss or a breakup. Or maybe you're in a crisis of feeling alone or abandoned by friends. Or a crisis of even knowing who you are. I remember in high school, I'm going to bring you guys back a little bit and be kind of vulnerable. But I remember in high school, I struggled with depression and an eating disorder. Maybe some of you can relate to this. But I go back into old journals and I remember those black days of crisis, just like King Hezekiah said. Each day felt like I was in crisis. At that point, I hadn't been taking God seriously. I'd go to church every once in a while, but I didn't have a true relationship with Jesus. And I began to let the taunting get to me. You see, the more something is repeated in your head, the more that you start saying things over and over and let things run you by, the more true they feel to you. I would wear glasses so I would be able to take them off and not look at myself in the mirror, and I was beginning to lose weight rapidly. The crisis took a hold of my mind, my thoughts, and even started to make me feel it physically. I read the story of Hezekiah, and I wish I would have known the power and authority that I know now. I let this crisis overcome me and steal so much from me. I lost years when I could have prayed to Jesus and sat it down at his feet. Maybe you feel this. I want to go back to the story, though. Hezekiah asked Isaiah to pray. He asked his prophet to pray. Isaiah responded by saying that God's message to Hezekiah was, "Don't be upset by what you've heard. I personally will take care of him." Look at this. When the king received these threatening letters, he immediately went to the Lord and spread it out in front of God. And he began to pray, and he remembered all the things that God did for him. God heard the prayer of Hezekiah and Isaiah, and he rescued and delivered his people. Guys, I want you to remember the power of Jesus, the authority that comes with knowing Jesus. I want to remind you guys that we are able to be resilient because of the power of the cross. It's not the power that's within us, but it's the power that has been given to us because we are his kids. We weren't promised a life with no troubles, but we are promised that Jesus would always be with us. We need to choose to go before God and lay it at his feet. We are able to find joy in times of trouble and depend on a love that never gives up. And I know that this crisis is not easy, or whatever crisis that you're going through. But guys, I just want to remind you that even in the darkest of days, that you can always run to Jesus and turn back to him. Open your Bible, talk to a friend, pray, journal. There are so many different tools that we can use to get closer to God and come out of this funk. There's some things like setting up a schedule, talking to people, talking to a counselor, not being alone. Even though you might be isolated in your house, you could still be with family. I want to go back to the story. Hezekiah asked Isaiah to pray. His first response wasn't to go reach out to someone that he's been liking for a long time and Snapchat them late at night. It wasn't to go cry in the corner and listen to sad music. It wasn't to let everything that he's learned go to waste. No, he asked his friend Isaiah to pray for him. Guys, I want to remind you the power of Jesus. I want to remind you that we are able to be resilient because of the power of the cross. When the king received these threatening letters, he immediately went to the Lord and spread it out in front of him. He didn't waste any time in between. He then began to pray and remembered of all the things that God did for him. And God heard the prayer of Hezekiah and Isaiah, and he rescued and delivered his people. If there is a crisis in your life that's beating you down, taunting you, causing you pain emotionally, physically, I'm here to tell you that our God is so big and he's so able to overcome it. We weren't promised a life with no troubles, but we were promised that Jesus would always be with us. We need to choose to go before God and lay it at his feet. We are able to find joy in times of trouble and depend on a love that never gives up. That is what allows us to be resilient, because we know the end of the story. These troubles now during this time are so small compared to eternity that's waiting for us at the end of the tunnel. So guys, I just want to pray for you as we close this out, and I want you to ask yourself these questions these next couple weeks. Do I bounce back when crisis happens? What is my go-to when crisis happens? Is it good or bad? Do I need to start laying a few more things at Jesus' feet? Just think about these things for the next few weeks. Text your life group leaders, text your friends, talk to your parents about it, text Lance about it, I don't know, but just talk to people, have community. The first thing Hezekiah did was call for Isaiah to pray for him. He had his community there. Don't do this alone. Isolation is one of the things that eats away at us. So we're gonna pray it out, and just know that I love you guys so much, and I can't wait to see you again in person. God, I'm so grateful that you are just a king that fights for us, God, that we don't have to be worried about losing the war because we know that you see us and that you've already won. So Father, I pray that you would just help keep my friends resilient, God, in the face of crisis, that you would help them turn to you, God, turn to your word, and turn to their friends around them. Father, I pray for good mentorship and that we just keep falling more and more in love with you. God, we love you so much. Amen.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope you guys enjoyed our video. Right now, we're about to hop into our Zoom call, so be ready for that. Thanks for believing in us. We love you guys, and we can't wait to see you till next time.